I'm Matt from Untrained Terrain, and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about Brian Walshe. Today our story starts in a town called Cohasset, Massachusetts, which is known for its rocky shores and great climate. Cohasset is a beautiful and unique coastal town with a rich history and filled with significant historical sites and spectacular views. The town covers a 9 square mile area and is home to approximately 8,000 residents. Our story really starts with Ana Walshe. Ana Walshe, sorry if I butchered that, was born in Belgrade, Serbia in 1983. She was raised in Belgrade, where she attended 5th Belgrade Gymnasium and obtained a BA in French language and literature from the University of Belgrade. Eventually emigrating to the United States in 2005 and becoming a dual citizen of both Serbia and the United States, she would begin working at a hotel called the Inn at Little Washington in Washington, Virginia. The Inn at Little Washington is known for its absolutely phenomenal cuisine. Her next job was at the Wheatley Hotel in Lenox, Massachusetts, where she worked for 2 years and eventually met a man named Brian Walshe. The two became very close and started a relationship that would eventually turn into them getting married. And she would later give birth to 3 boys. Now, Brian just wasn't your average guy. He was born as the first and only child to Dr. Thomas and Diana Walshe. Now, his father was a prestigious doctor at a very well-known hospital in Boston, Massachusetts, and his mother was a stay-at-home mom. Unfortunately, later in Brian's life, the pair would split, which would lead to some problems with Brian. In October 2018, Brian was indicted on federal fraud charges in regards to selling fake Andy Warhol art online, using Anne's eBay account. According to court documents, Brian even took real artwork from a friend to sell it, but never did. Now, during this time, Brian and Anna's relationship started going downhill. I mean, why wouldn't it, right? He uses her eBay account as selling fake art online as a crime. And she started having an affair in November 2022. I mean, by this point in the relationship, Anna's just getting sick of Brian. He treats her like shit. He's never around. He's always accusing her of having an affair, so, I mean, she goes and she does have an affair with a man in Washington, D.C. Now, this infuriated Brian. Brian even got his mother to hire a private investigator to follow Anna around and see what she was doing. Isn't it a little weird to get your mom to hire a private investigator to follow your wife around? I mean, that's not really a thing for your mom to do for you, is it? Or is that just me? I don't know. Call me crazy, but... Now, maybe because of this pain that Brian felt over this, maybe this was an underlying effect to cause what happened in 2023, sadly. On January 4th, 2023, Anna was reported missing by her employer after Anna failed to show up to work in Washington, D.C. And after that, Brian even reported her missing. Now, maybe because of this pain that Brian felt over this, maybe this was an underlying effect to cause what happened in 2023, sadly. On January 4th, 2023, Anna was reported missing by her employer after Anna failed to show up to work in Washington, D.C. Anna was last seen in the early hours of the morning of January 1st, 2023, after having dinner with Brian and one of his friends. Brian told the police that the couple went home, they went to bed, they kissed goodnight, and in the morning she woke up for work. Brian told police that on the morning of January 1st, when Anna woke for work, she kissed him goodbye and took an Uber to the airport to go to Washington, D.C.
Latest on that missing Cohasset woman, 39-year-old Ana Walshe has 3 young sons and hasn't been seen since New Year's Day. She told her family she was going to the airport to catch a flight, but police say she never boarded. NBC 10's Diane Cho has more on today's investigation.
They search from above and on the ground using police canines near the 39-year-old's Cohasset home.
They are searching 2 other sectors behind us.
Authorities say a dive team also searched a stream and drained a pool at her home off Route 3A on Saturday, but still no sign of Ana Walshe, a mother of 3 who was last seen by a family member at her home on New Year's Day. Her friends say they're still in disbelief.
This is completely unlike her, and this is complete. I think that's part of the shock, is like she would not go a day without talking with her husband and her boys.
Police say Walshe was set to take a rideshare to Logan Airport to catch a flight to D.C., where she worked as a real estate executive, while police say they can confirm she did not board a plane.
At this point, we cannot confirm that she actually got into a rideshare in Cohasset.
On Friday afternoon, firefighters were then called to this home where Walshe used to live before selling it in April. Authorities now learning that fire was accidental. The state fire marshal's office says it was caused by damaged piping. As the search on the ground near her home wraps up, the search for answers into what happened to Walshe continues.
This is honestly just really mind-boggling and gut-wrenching, and there's no words.
As of now, authorities say they do not have any plans to conduct another search on the ground in Cohasset unless they develop new information that warrants it. In Cohasset, Diane Cho, NBC 10 Boston.
Brian also told police that he and Ana went to bed around 1:30 a.m. after celebrating New Year with a friend, and that Ana left the next morning for her job in Washington, D.C. Next, they discover CCTV of Brian at Home Depot buying $450 of supplies, including mops, a bucket, goggles, tarp, a hatchet, and baking soda. Now, police found some rather incriminating Google searches on his son's iPad, but instead of telling you, I might as well just show you, so here you go. On January 3rd, there was another Google search on his computer for asking if baking soda would mask or make a body smell good. Police would later conduct a search with canine and the whole 9 yards in the wooded areas around the family home. Now sadly, this would turn up nothing. On January 7th, investigators received an email saying, "We have her here with us, and we will release her after receiving $127,000. Now, investigators would say that the email was deemed suspicious because it didn't include any contact information, and it didn't include a timeline, like, of when they were going to do something to her if they didn't receive the money, and when they wanted the money, and where they wanted the money, and so on and so forth. Police were later tasked with watching surveillance of Brian to verify his timeline of events, and police did observe him at Whole Foods on January 1st, as previously had stated. Police later were tasked with watching surveillance of Brian to verify his timeline of events, and police did not observe him at Whole Foods on January 1st, as he had previously had stated. Now, Brian was arrested and charged with misleading the police for saying that his wife took a ride share from the family home on January 1st. On January 9th, Brian pleaded not guilty to the charges, and his bond was set at $500,000, and the next hearing was set for February 9th.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Glenn Jones.
And I'm Priscilla Casper. A short time ago, a community vigil for Ana wrapped up. We're going to take you live there in just a moment. But first, we do want to go to NBC 10's Abby Niscoda joining us live in Swampscott with a few more details on that breaking news. Abby.
Yeah, these details are just coming in to us all the way from Washington, D.C. It is our first record that Ana Walshe felt threatened by Brian Walshe. It's a police report, guys, from 8 years ago before the couple was even married. But her statement to officers at that time that he was reportedly going to kill her and her friends is certainly chilling.
Now, by this time, the police were really looking at Brian. I mean, why wouldn't they? There's the knife in the basement. There's blood in the house. The house was caught on fire. Obviously, not to destroy evidence, right, Brian? Right. So, now the police have all this. Now what do they do?
Tonight, there is still no official word on where Ana Walshe is. But authorities believe the Cohasset, Massachusetts woman is dead and today accused her husband, Brian, of killing her, making the announcement in a video statement.
The continued investigation has now allowed police to obtain an arrest warrant charging Brian Walshe with the murder of his wife.
Walshe's attorney declined to comment. The 47-year-old Walshe is already in custody, accused of misleading police during their search for his wife. He was arraigned last week on that charge and pled not guilty.
He's on surveillance at that time, purchasing about $450 worth of cleaning supplies. That would include mops, bucket, tops. He's on surveillance at that time on January 2nd, even though he said he never left the house.
Police say they also found a knife and blood in the basement of the Walshes' home. Ana Walshe was last seen New Year's Day, the mother of three supposedly on her way to her job in Washington, D.C. But it wasn't until January 4th that the 39-year-old woman was reported missing by her employer. This is not Brian Walshe's first run-in with the law. He was awaiting sentencing on unrelated federal fraud charges when Ana Walshe disappeared.
An arrest warrant was issued on January 17th for Brian for the murder of his wife. Brian would plead not guilty to the charges. And using the $2.7 million life insurance policy as the primary motive for the murder, prosecutors have a trial set for October 20th, 2025.